This video is brought to you by True Tales of Buried Treasure, the largest collection of old treasure magazines in the West. We're pleased to announce that we are now selling our physical magazines directly on our website. You can browse by magazine title or search for a particular issue using the search bar. To pay us a visit, please click the link in the description. Enjoy. Long before the colony at Roanoke in Virginia was established, and decades before the Pilgrims set foot on American soil, other white men had already reached the distant western shores of North America. Sailing into a harbor along what is now the California coast, they may have left behind more than 40 tons of buried treasure, gold, silver, jewels, and precious artifacts. At the helm of this voyage was a powerful red-haired Englishman with a matching beard, Francis Drake. To Spain, he was a pirate. To England, a patriot. Drake's loyalty to England was matched only by his hatred for Spain. As a boy, he had taken to the seas with his cousin, Sir John Hawkins, whose ships traded between England and the Americas. But Spain claimed ownership of both continents and their riches, and Spanish forces ruthlessly attacked any English vessel they found, often torturing and killing the crews. Drake had witnessed this brutality firsthand. As he grew older, Drake acquired his own ship and crew. He roamed the Caribbean, striking Spanish ships and coastal settlements. The wealth he gained from these daring raids made him one of England's richest men. Stories of his exploits eventually reached Queen Elizabeth I. She saw in Drake a chance to challenge Spain's power and tap into the immense riches of the Americas without directly provoking war. Disguising the mission as a trade expedition to Egypt, she sent him across the Atlantic with a fleet of 5 ships. But disaster followed him. By the time Drake reached the treacherous Straits of Magellan at the southern tip of South America, only his flagship remained, the Pelican. Storms had sunk some ships, others he'd destroyed himself after mutiny, and scurvy had claimed many of his men. Still, with iron resolve, Drake pressed on, sailing northward along the Pacific coast. He renamed his ship the Golden Hind. Off the coast of Chile, he encountered a native fisherman who, mistaking the English ship for a Spanish one, guided it to Valparaiso. Drake seized the opportunity, catching the port off guard. His crew looted the town and the ships anchored there, escaping before the stunned Spanish could react. Sailing north at full speed, Drake plundered every Spanish settlement in his path. He prowled the sea lanes, capturing galleons heavy with treasure from the east. Soon, the Golden Hind was packed with gold, silver, and prisoners. Near Huatulco in present-day Oaxaca, Mexico, he released his Spanish captives and restocked his supplies. With 80 loyal crewmen, he once again turned north. To avoid the Spanish warships likely hunting him, Drake made a bold decision: to cross the Pacific to the Spice Islands. He used stolen Spanish maps to plot his route. Hoping to find a passage from the Pacific to the Atlantic around the northern part of the continent, a fabled Northwest Passage, he sailed up the coast but found the land veered west, not east. Eventually, convinced the Spanish pursuit had waned, he steered the Golden Hind southward. Before embarking on the long journey to the Spice Islands, Drake needed a safe harbor to repair his battered vessel. He first entered what is now Trinidad Bay, but deemed it unsuitable. Further south, he found an ideal location to beach the ship and make repairs, a bay roughly 40 miles north of present-day San Francisco. The exact location of this bay has been the subject of debate among historians and treasure hunters alike. Many believe that somewhere near this spot, Francis Drake may have buried a vast hoard of treasure, lost to time waiting to be rediscovered. A man named Francis Fletcher, who served as chaplain aboard the Golden Hind, kept extensive notes on Sir Francis Drake's voyage. He recorded that a convenient and fit harbor gave haven to the Golden Hind, a year and a half out of Plymouth, England, and heavily laden with gold and jewels, captured after fierce sea battles with Spanish ships off Peru and Panama. These notes would later be compiled and published under the title The World Encompassed by Sir Francis Drake. Between June 27th and July 23rd, 1579, the Golden Hind was beached for repairs in a secluded harbor on the California coast. The local native people were curious and friendly, but Drake kept them at a respectful distance while a small fort was built to protect his men and the vast treasure. Once the area was secure, he allowed peaceful exchanges of gifts and greetings. The natives were amazed by the Englishmen's steel cutlasses, the firearms that emitted deadly fire, and the luxurious velvet and gold-trimmed clothing worn by the crew. Before long, they began to regard the white men as divine beings. Drake, a devout man, tried to discourage this. He held public prayers, had the chaplain read from the Bible, and led his crew in hymn singing, hoping to teach the locals about God. But the natives only laughed and asked for more performances. Eventually, Hayo, the chief of the local tribe, visited Drake. Dressed in furs and feathers and adorned with a scepter and long bone chains, he arrived with a procession of women carrying large baskets of food for the white gods. In a ceremony of music and dancing, Chief Hayo placed a feathered crown on Drake's head and the bone chains on his shoulders, proclaiming him their king and divine protector. Seizing the moment, Drake formally claimed the land for Queen Elizabeth I, naming it Nova Albion, New Albion, in honor of the white cliffs along the shore that reminded him of England. A brass plate was affixed to a post, engraved with the Queen's name, the date, and a declaration that the king and people of the land had freely surrendered their territory to Her Majesty. The plate also included a portrait and coat of arms, along with a silver sixpence embedded in it. Following repairs, the Golden Hind continued westward. Guided by captured Spanish charts, Drake sailed through the Philippines, down through the East Indies, and around the Cape of Good Hope, finally returning to Plymouth, England, on September 26, 1580. Queen Elizabeth welcomed him in triumph and knighted him for his achievements. His daring voyage weakened Spain's grip on the seas and brought immense prestige and treasure to England. Drake's fame only grew when, years later in 1937, a remarkable discovery was made. A man named Beryl Shin, while exploring in Marin County, California, spotted a small metal plate beneath some rocks. Measuring about 5 by 7 inches, it had odd markings. Shin tossed it in his car and forgot about it for a month. When he finally examined it closely, he could make out just one word: Drake. Curious, Shin brought the artifact to Dr. Herbert Bolton, director of the Bancroft Library. After meticulous cleaning, a centuries-old message emerged. "Be it known unto all men by these presents, June 17, 1579. By the grace of God, and in the name of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth and her successors forever, I take possession of this kingdom whose king and people freely resign their right and title in the whole land, unto Her Majesty, now named by me and to be known unto all men as Nova Albion. G. Francis Drake." The brass plate matched the description given in Fletcher's journal, down to the embedded sixpence. Scientific analysis confirmed the plate was several hundred years old and made from metal consistent with 16th century England. Today, it is preserved in the Bancroft Library. But one mystery remains. What became of the enormous treasure? Fletcher noted that the Golden Hind carried 40 tons of gold, silver, and jewels. And while some of this was recorded as arriving in England, not all of it was accounted for. Did Drake bury the rest near the white cliffs of Nova Albion? If so, those long-lost tons of treasure may still lie hidden somewhere along the California coast, waiting to be found. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to read the original article or purchase the magazine from which it was taken, please check out our website, truetalesofburiedtreasure.com.